CEO wants return to office. C.T.O plays it perfect. I work for a Spanish company. It's been like 7 to 8 years and we know each other pretty well. I've known and worked with the C.T.O for like 10 years now. He's a cool guy that wants stuff done. Even before 2020, the WFH work from home policy was extremely relaxed. You do you, and have things done by the time we need it. We're okay. So when the pandemic came, the transition was as easy as it could get. In fact, as a company and especially on the tech team, we embraced the opportunity and started hiring people from outside the city for a cheaper salary than in the city, but for the people, a higher salary than the one they could get without moving into the city. I even moved out of the city during that time. Since C.T.O didn't want to be a sales guy, the company hired a C.E.O in 2021, an Englishman that came highly recommended and was stationed in his rural house in the English countryside. Looked like a cool, relaxed guy for a while. Once the pandemic ended, he started pushing rather heavily for a return to office, RTO, for everyone. He made polls, lengthy emails to everyone about how this fostered relationships and whatnot. He got really pushy, even complaining to C.T.O about it. So every time he came to Spain, people that lived around the city would go to the office just to be there, so C.E.O was happy. And then one time, C.T.O decided that he had enough about the whole RTO mandate and C.E.O complaining. So, on a random meeting of the tech team, C.T.O said, "Okay, next Tuesday, I want everyone on the office. If you live far away, book a train, drive, whatever you have to do. I'll pay. But be here. But be here." And so we did. That Tuesday, every single one of the tech team, including people that took a 2 or 3 hour trip to get there, was in the office. Guess who wasn't there? Yeah, the C.E.O. So, C.T.O took a picture, emailed it to C.E.O saying something along the lines of, "If you can't lead by example, don't push my people to do things that don't work," and we went to have a relaxing lunch and beers type of day. Aftermath. RTO mandate never came to fruition. C.E.O was out of the company a year later. We closed the office since everyone works 100% of the time from home, and, to his dismay, C.T.O is now C.T.O, and acting C.E.O, and acting C.E.O, and things are going smoothly. For our next story. Teacher wouldn't listen, so the entire class complied and he got fired. This happened in the early 2000s in my junior year of high school. The district had just built the 3rd high school in our city, and most of the teachers were new. The band director was one of those new hires. He was qualified for the job, but had 0 people skills and was extremely abrasive towards students. He had previously taught university and could not wrap his head around the fact that high school students are not college-level music majors who live in practice rooms and write symphonies in their sleep. His normal behavior consisted of berating students for not knowing university-level curriculum, talking down to everyone about how he can't understand why they were so incompetent, and stopping rehearsals to go on long tangents about things that had nothing to do with music. Every day at least 2 to 3 students would leave class in tears. We complained to the higher-ups and they repeatedly brushed us off. He made students hate attending his music classes and many dropped band and orchestra as a result. One of the classes he taught was supposed to be Intro to Music Theory. For those who don't know music, this would be a class that should typically teach things like different types of chords, the definition of music symbols, the logic behind key changes, etc. At the first class of the year, there were about 25 kids enrolled. Most of these were music and drama kids who wanted to be teachers or performers in the arts one day. On the first day, he handed us a quiz because he wanted to see how much we knew. I think there were maybe 3 to 5 kids who were able to attempt a single question on the quiz. No one got a single answer right. That's how advanced it was. Imagine signing up for what you think is a basic pre-algebra class and walking into advanced calculus. This teacher spent the entire class period berating us for not being prepared when no one could even attempt his quiz. We told him this is an intro class, none of us have learned anything like this before, and his response was, "Really? I thought this was an advanced class." The next class period there were maybe 15 kids enrolled. He did the same thing, asked us to perform something we can't even understand, and then berated us for not being prepared. At every class he would say, "I thought you all were musicians, this is supposed to be an advanced class." By the end of the second week, there were 6 students left enrolled in this class, including myself. He softened up slightly to those of us who stayed, and seemed to think we were his prize students and that this was his class of elites. Think Professor Slughorn from Harry Potter. In truth, we all thought he was insane and cruel, but the 6 of us had sufficient music background and experience to understand a fraction of his lessons. Without the bell curve, we all would have failed his class. A few months go by and we are at the end of the first semester. By now, every student connected to music in the school hated this guy, and repeated complaints had done nothing to fix the problem. The admins filed away every complaint but never did anything more than remind him that he's supposed to be more kind to students. He changes nothing and still berates students and makes them cry. So when it comes to the final exam for his theory class, he decides that he wants to give it to us early, so that on the day the final is supposed to be scheduled, we can have a class party instead. Of the 6 of us left, 4 of us have the same period after his class together as well. That class was AP English, and we were prepping for the AP test. We had no problem with a class party and music right before the AP prep exam, so we didn't complain. The day comes of our music final exam, and after we finish the test, he tells us that for our class party, he wants to take us all to breakfast at a new IHOP that opened 20 minutes away. His class was first period. We try to tell him all the issues with this plan. We aren't allowed to leave campus without permission slips. It was a closed campus policy due to an incident where a student who left campus for lunch got hit by a car and was unalived. We will not get back in time for second period, which is a final exam. He doesn't have permission to remove us from the campus. What if there is an emergency? And we are unaccounted for because we aren't even at the school. His solution was to tell us that after the start of class on our final class day, he would be going to IHOP, and if we wanted to join him, that was our choice. But if we didn't, we would have to stay in the classroom and not bring attention to the next. There was no class and no teacher. Without talking about it to each other, the 6 of us saw an opportunity to finally get the admin's attention to the complete disregard this teacher had for rules and policies. We made sure to inform our English teacher that we might be late to class on the day of the final, due to a class field trip for music theory. She was irritated and reminded us that this final was very important and that she would not give us extra time if we came in late. We told her that we understood and gave her details about where we would be and what we would be doing and who we would be with. She said she still expected us to be in her class. On the day of the final, we all went to IHOP. It took forever to get there because of construction, and forever to get our food because the restaurant was newly opened and had a large number of customers. We got back to the school halfway through our second period class. The admins were waiting for us. Security was waiting for us. My English teacher had called the front office to complain that 4 of her best students were missing and that she was fairly certain we weren't even on campus. The admins had checked attendance and seen that we were all marked present that morning, and they had searched the entire school looking for our class. The 4 of us walked into our English final to a livid teacher. We knew she was pissed at us but couldn't punish us beyond saying we had the same remaining time as the rest of the class, since we had been with the teacher in our absence. None of us did as well in the final as we could have if we had the full 87 minutes, but we were doing well enough in the class already that the lesser marks didn't affect our overall grade too much. The band teacher had a private reprimand that was so loud the entire school could hear it. He was confused as to why the administration was upset that he took minor children off campus without permission or notice, without proper school transportation, or even a good reason. He stayed with his usual attitude, but this time towards the admins. Why are you guys so incompetent about this? They are old enough to drive. What's the problem? The English teacher, who I actually adore, and was one of the best teachers I've ever had, absolutely went mama bear on the administration about how they could continue to employ someone who disrespects the other teachers so much as to deprive his students of their final exams and put them in potentially dangerous circumstances. He told us to drive ourselves to the restaurant, and any accidents or medical issues would have been the school's fault. He was fired later that day. Many of the students had a gleeful but confused reaction, since the 6 of us weren't talking to anyone about it. All most people knew was that this tyrant of a teacher was gone. We didn't spread the story very much of how it happened because we still feared being reprimanded for our involvement, since he'd technically have us a choice to go with him or stay. But I always smiled when people gossiped about what the final straw was that got him fired. Our last story for today. We don't do refunds here. I was racing between things one day and didn't have much time for lunch. At the time, McDonald's wasn't absurdly expensive, and one was on the way to my next stop, so I decided to hit the drive-thru up so I could eat on the way. I placed my order for a medium McThing and got asked if I wanted a large, which most McDonald's don't do anymore, and I said no. When I got to the window to pay, the price seemed high, which I thought was odd, but maybe I just did the mental math on the taxes wrong or misremembered the price of the item. And then the cashier didn't hand me a receipt. Weird as well, but whatever. When I got to the window to receive my food, it all clicked as they handed me a large, which I politely declined as I really had zero interest in paying $2 for a few more fries and soda. At this point, the manager appeared and stated, "We don't do refunds here." That was when I realized what was going on. Having worked fast food before, they were probably doing some sort of upcharge competition, ring up the most larges and you or that manager get a reward. I was slightly flabbergasted, but the manager repeated that nope, no possibility of a refund. I politely smiled and said, "That's okay. I'll call my bank on speaker to do a chargeback. I'll need you to talk to them." Since it's on speaker, you can just tell them you can't do refunds. And then proceeded to sit at the window, calling my bank, during lunch hour at a very busy drive-through. Turns out they can do refunds, and they can do them so fast I didn't even make it through the phone tree. And yes, I did file a complaint with corporate, but it's not like that actually does anything. And those are all the stories we have for today. See you tomorrow.